Is this on? Oh, here we go. Okay, we are going live. I think this is how this works. Is this on? Is this thing on? Am I on internet? I hope I am on internet. I want to be on internet. That's what I'm going for. We want internet. I think we're here. I'm pretty certain we are here. Yes, we are. We are on internet. Good, good, good. We are on internet. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry to interrupt your regularly scheduled program, but I have special announcement to make. The whistleblower is me. I am whistleblower. I have contract with CIA. I am known as Discord Sower and Chaos Agent. I was able to give myself own title. It's really neat. I spend most of my days making memes and making fake checks on Photoshop, sending them to Lawrence O'Donnell. It is great life. I have decided to be whistleblower because I want to get job as commentator on cable news. Once I become commentator on cable news, there is a comedian named Jimmy Dore who has promised $1 million for anybody who brings up petrodollar on cable news. So I get my job as commentator, I bring up petrodollar on cable news, I collect $1 million from Jimmy Dore. Then I go buy vacation home in Vermont. I will live like a king. I will have multiple winter coats. It will be amazing. Now you know. I am whistleblower. Sorry to interrupt your regularly scheduled program. This was easiest show in the world to hijack, by the way. You know the tech person co-host is a black cat. Did you know that? It is black cat. Literally, it's a black cat. This guy talks to black cat like most of show. That's what happens here. How bad is US news? Oh, I'm an American. Time to get my news on. Should I turn on the television? Should I read the newspaper? No. I want comedian streaming in living room talking to black cat. Somehow, big large media doesn't know what working class is up to. But comedian with black cat, he's figured it out. He knows. Black cat knows. He talks to black cat. Probably high. There is no way sober person talks to black cat that much. No way. All right. That is it for me. I'm glad I was able to give this message, and now I will not interrupt your program any further. Please go on to enjoy, get your booze on with Sean, or whatever this show is. Goodbye. All right, I gotta get this thing started here. I know I'm running a little late. That is not good. Um, we're live already? Huh. That is strange. I don't know how that happened. That is really weird, but for some reason we are already live. All right. Well, I guess that's just the way that goes, huh? Cool. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer curated streaming news show. That means you guys send me ideas, we talk about it, and that's how we build the show. I'm seeing everything for the first time. You know the drill. So, first of all, we got to do a follow up. We got to follow up on something we talked about on Thursday, and I think this should pretty much clear up where we're at and kind of kind of just set the record straight, so to speak. So on Thursday, we covered a WBUR interview with Tulsi Gabbard, where her answer regarding healthcare was pretty disappointing and a little disturbing, to say the very least. But it was also very short. And I remember saying, we're going to hear more about this. This isn't just going to be left alone. We're going to get some clarification, because her answer was very Pete Buttigieg-esque. So what's going on there? We need some clarification. Well, there has been some clarification, and this should kind of clear up the healthcare thing, hopefully once and for all, although it's still a long election season. So let's start over here. So this is what Abraham Williams tweeted to Mikey Figueredo on the Humanist Report. Now, Abraham is Tulsi's husband. So Tulsi has been clear from the start, nothing changed. She supports Medicare for all across the board with a private, not public, option if people want it. This has always been her stance. You can agree or disagree with this, but saying she doesn't support Medicare for all just isn't true. Okay, so why is private versus public important? Why is that distinction pretty important? Which, by the way, getting back to the WBUR answer, what was concerning there was that she said if somebody just likes their healthcare, their employer-based healthcare, they can just keep it, which, is kind of a concerning answer, because Medicare for all, while it does not ban all private insurance, it bans duplicative insurance. So if you have employer insurance that is less strong than Medicare for all, that doesn't cover as much as Medicare for all, and keep in mind when the Medicare for all bill calls for an expansion of what Medicare currently does, it's going to do more. Well, then, you're going to go to Medicare. If you have some kind of plan that is supplemental to Medicare or goes beyond Medicare for some certain issue you may be susceptible to or something like that, well, then you still get to keep that. As long as it's not duplicative coverage, that's where the private market still exists. That's what's going on in both Medicare for all bills, Jay Appel's and Bernie's, and that's what's going on and that's kind of where the situation is at. So what Tulsi, Tulsi's saying that I don't really like that framing. So here's another article that kind of lays this out and kind of explains the differences here. And I think they did a pretty good job doing it. All right, so this is from Medium. This is by Alan Myron. All right, so universal single-payer healthcare, that's an idea where every single doctor is, in the system. We don't have a pure single-payer healthcare system, but we have Medicare for all, which is single-payer in the sense that everybody pays into it, everybody has the base going on, but there's a private insurance industry for supplemental things or things that are more extensive than Medicare for all. And that's very similar to what a lot of other countries have. England has something like that. There's room for the private market in many kind of single payer systems that are still single payer at the base, but aren't completely through and through single payer. Okay. So Medicare Choice, a term coined by Tulsi Gabbard to expand over the universal single payer system, recognizing that there are additional healthcare services that are not covered under Medicare for all. Okay. So that's the difference between, that's why the whole supporting a private choice, not public choice, is important, because when you say public option, what public option means, and that's what Pete Buttigieg says, that's what Joe Biden says, what public option means is if you have an employer-based plan and you just don't want to move, you don't have to, and then you don't have to go into the Medicare poll. So, and that would not work, because then not everyone's in the Medicare poll. What Tulsi Gabbard appears to be saying is that everyone is still in the Medicare poll. Everyone's in that poll. You're just put in there. But if you want to buy supplemental insurance, then you can. And there's going to be a private option that has those supplemental things. And if there's things that already have those supplemental things or those more extensive things, nobody needs to worry about losing that type of plan. That is not contradictory to Medicare for all. However, I think her framing of if you like your employer-based healthcare system, you can just keep it, I don't think that's the best framing in the world. And that's why there were a lot of red flags initially. The people who drew the red flags, everybody knows that Medicare for All does not completely eliminate the private insurance industry. It eliminates duplicative insurance. So just saying, oh, well, if you have an employer-based thing, you like it, you can just keep it. Well, that's not really the best framing unless, and again, there's still some things we're waiting on because Tulsi is going to make her own version of the bill. At least apparently that's what she plans on doing. Unless in Tulsi's case, she does, and this is a possibility. I'm not saying this is or isn't the case yet because I don't think we know. Perhaps her plan could be where she doesn't eliminate duplicative coverage, but you're still in the Medicare pool. Somebody on YouTube compared this to public schools in our country. So in this country, everybody pays for the public schools via taxes, right? Everyone pays for public schools. And if you want to send your kid to public school, they go for free. But everyone pays for it no matter what. Now, you can choose to send your kid to a private school, and you got to pay for that. And your kid goes to school, goes to the private school, does not go to the public school. But you're still paying for the public school. You can't opt out of paying for the public school. So, using this analogy, it seems like Tulsi could be calling for something like that. We're like, hey, if you like your employer-based program, you want to keep it, you just can. No questions asked. You can just keep it, but you're going to be in the Medicare poll. Thus, Medicare for All. Everyone's in the poll. So overall, factoring in all these scenarios, which we're still, this is still unfolding. She still hasn't released all the details of her ideas. So this is all still unfolding, and there's still some level of conjecture that's still going on here. But all things as they are, I kind of just prefer a straight up Medicare for All approach like Bernie Sanders. People are finally starting to come around to the fact that the idea of a universal system isn't the boogeyman, that these for-profit insurance industries aren't our friends. People are coming around to that. I say, hey, keep it going. I understand the perspective that some people have gave that like, well, hey, Tulsi using this kind of language, taking this type of approach, it kind of eases the fears of people who are scared of, quote, government-run healthcare. Because, I mean, we've been listening to propaganda about that for decades in the United States media. They've been shoving propaganda about socialized medicine, for decades and decades. So some could argue, well, Tulsi's approach, it kind of eases those fears a little bit while still getting everyone in the poll and still getting a universal system. So I get it. I say, hey, we're finally unmasking this stuff. Let's go for it. Let's get a Medicare for All system. And if there's something, people can still keep more extensive things. It doesn't ban that because that's not duplicative coverage. Supplemental things, it doesn't ban that. That's not duplicative coverage. I would love to live in just a totally pure single payer, no ands, ifs, or buts about it world. But, we're not going to go from there to here. The Medicare for All system doesn't call for that. And, if this is what we need to do, which is similar to a lot of other countries to get everybody insured and everybody in a big national poll, I'm okay with it. I can live with that. That's called a realistic compromise. Not a compromise by letting big pharma have their way, but a compromise by recognizing, okay, this is what most other countries with universal healthcare have. This is where we're going to go next because we're slowly catching up to all these other countries. Other countries are working on, stuff like pure single payer systems, or at least some people in those countries do favor it. We're just trying to get to that first step. So, all right. Well, we actually had our baby step. Our baby step was Romney Care, aka the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. We had our baby step, which was not a good policy, but was better than the absolute nothing that we had. So you get the idea. All right. So hopefully that breaks it down once and for all. And I know some people, they lean more towards Bernie's approach. Some people might lean more towards Tulsi's approach. I lean more towards Bernie's approach, all things considered. But look, who's standing in the way of Medicare for All and a variation of a single payer system, which is what Medicare for All is. It is, in essence, a single payer system. It's not pure single payer, all things, nothing excluded, but it's still a single payer system because everyone's in the poll. You know who's standing in the way of that? Not Tulsi Gabbard. All right? Tulsi Gabbard is not standing in the way of that. Liz Warren, who can't even call it a policy. Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic establishment, the DNC, the Republicans. All those entities are standing in the way of Medicare for all, way more so than a Tulsi Gabbard who might have some different ideas for some of the details. So I think that's where we're at. I think that's a very fair summary of where we're at, factoring in all the different factors at play here. And I really hope we get some type of universal system very soon, because having these discussions over and over again is giving me a fuck of a migraine. All right. I think that sums it up. All right. So moving on, .org. Hillary Clinton. Oh, Hillary Clinton. So Hillary Clinton's going to be doing some TV this week. She's going to appear on Colbert and a couple other shows. And she's kind of gotten back into our public spotlight as of recent. And here's what she has to say so far. She's, guys, I got to tip my hat to Hillary Clinton. She's focusing on very important issues. So here we go. Hillary Clinton defends Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton defends Joe Biden after controversy about how he interacts with women and girls. And she has a message for everybody. Get over it. Oh, boy. All right. So let's for goodness sake, here's her quote on this. For goodness sake, I'm sorry. This is when Joe Biden came up. For goodness sake, I'm sorry. I have to jump in because I've heard a little bit about that. I mean, I don't think that the Twitterverse is the American electorate, but there are lots of vocal voices that say all kinds of things, said Clinton. Also, she doesn't think that Michigan or Wisconsin are the electorate voices either, by the way, the American electorate. Now, she says that Joe Biden is a thoroughly decent human being who has served our country honorably and well for decades. He's been on the wrong side of pretty much everything. But then again, so is she. You go through everything on the wrong side time and time again. Iraq, wrong side. Healthcare, wrong side. Hillary Clinton at one point was on the right side when it came to healthcare. Then something changed. Wonder what that something was. All right. So here's where she says, get over it. We can pick apart anybody. I mean, that's a great spectator sport. But this man who's there in the Oval Office right now poses a clear and present danger to the future of the United States. So get over it. That is... You got to give it to Hillary Clinton. She is an artist. I mean, she really is. Every time she speaks, she manages to say something completely out of touch and something that is about as likable as watching wet paint dry. She somehow, Andy Kaufman, whose career was based on trying to be unlikable, can't hold a candle to Hillary Clinton. She's mastered it. And now the crazy thing here is Hillary Clinton is trying to be likable. But it really is. It is an art that every time she speaks, she says something where you're just like, what? What the hell, dude? Really? Come on. I mean, it's people who are trying to be unlikable can't come close to her. If Andy Kaufman was still alive, and maybe he is, he'd be like, holy shit, I got to take notes on this. This is a modern day poet. This is a modern day poet right here. I mean, it really is remarkable. It really is remarkable. And she has some awareness of how not liked she is, and she doesn't care. That's why they employed the Pied Piper strategy. Hey, the only way Hillary can win is if we get someone even less likable than her as an opponent. While we're at it, let's get a VP choice who's absolutely horrific. And it still didn't work. She still managed to lose that unpopularity contest. And it was literally an unpopularity contest because the person with the less votes won the election. Oh, unbelievable. All right, there we go. Hillary Clinton, inspiring minds, focusing on the important issues. And speaking of focusing on the important issues, another person with a lot of foresight, Nancy Pelosi. She gets it. We all know Nancy's on the pulse. Here we go. Here she goes again. Pelosi, impeachment is worth losing the House in 2020. Speaker Nancy Pelosi indicated on Saturday that successfully pursuing impeachment of President Trump would be worth losing Democrats' House majority in 2020. By the way, this article is shared by Edwin. So Edwin, thank you very much for sharing this article. Oh, and I forgot to give a shout out. Our healthcare article, the Medium article, helping us unpack the whole healthcare thing and hopefully setting it straight once and for all, was shared by Jaku. So Jaku, thank you for sharing that. And Edwin, thank you for sharing the Pelosi article. So Pelosi says it's worth it to just lose the House in 2020. It's worth it to lose the House to impeach this president when there's an election coming up next year. Let me tell you something. Nancy Pelosi is not dumb. She's not. She's not. I know a lot of people, when I tweeted out this article, and when this article has been circulating around Twitter, people are like, how can she be so strategically tone deaf? How can she be this dumb? She is not tone deaf, nor is she dumb. She's out of touch, sure. She's very, very out of touch. It's because she's a cajillionaire. But she ain't dumb. What she did do here is she showed you her hand. She showed you her cards. She showed you what she's holding. And here's Nancy Pelosi's deal. Nancy Pelosi is out for Nancy Pelosi. And she's not the only one. Adam Schiff is out for Adam Schiff. They're all grifters. They're just grifters with different letters next to their name. Donald Trump's a grifter too. He has an R next to their name. His name, they have D's. So Nancy Pelosi, in her mind, there's a good chance that the next president is going to be a Democrat, or even scarier to her, a progressive. Even scarier to her, if Bernie's movement is so loud that they can't cheat us again and Bernie becomes the next president, that's really scary to her. It becomes less scary to her if Democrats lose the House, because then you can just get away with not doing anything. Hey, Republicans have the House. What can we do? Sorry, Bernie. So, of course, she would rather spike her favorability as much as she can through this whole impeachment thing and then lose the House later. That would be the best case scenario for her, because Democrats can lose the House. Her gravy train is not threatened. But if a progressive's in the White House, or even just the Democrats in the White House, and the American public is demanding progressive policies, which is what would happen, that does threaten her gravy train, doesn't it? So Pelosi's not dumb. Pelosi just showed you her hand. She showed you where her priorities are. Her priorities are save the status quo and make sure that the Democratic establishment's gravy train doesn't go anywhere. And screaming about impeachment and losing the House in 2020, especially if presidential, a Democrat or a progressive wins, that's in her best interest. All right. So that's why she said that. That's why she said that. There's no way any institution could be that strategically daft. There's just no way. It's because winning's not their first priority. The Democratic establishment, winning is not their first priority. Their first priority is maintain the status quo, keep the donor class happy. Their second priority is prohibit progressives from ever getting into office, which kind of goes into priority number one. Third priority, maybe we'll beat a Republican or two in the process. As long as those two things are held tight, maybe we'll beat a Republican or two in the process. And that's what happens when you have a one-party system like what we have here in the USA. All right. Okay. So we got some interesting news coming out of California. We're going to go here first. Seawalk shares this. Seawalk, thank you for sharing this. This is kind of interesting. Got a lot of thoughts on this. Maybe not a ton of thoughts, but a couple thoughts. All right, so here's what's going on. California will allow college athletes to profit from endorsements bill signed by Newsom. Okay, so Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a bill that will allow California athletes to earn money from the use of their names, images, and likenesses, despite warnings from the National Collegiate Athletic Association that the measure would upend amateur sports. Senate Bill 206 by Nancy Skinner, Democrat out of Berkeley, garnered national attention, with athletes including NBA stars LeBron James and Draymond Green applauding the California effort to give college athletes a share of the windfall they helped create for their universities and the NCAA. The bill passed the state legislature unanimously. Newsom signed the bill during an online-only episode of The Shop. Okay, interesting. That's a talk show, a sports talk show. So on Monday, the NCAA said it was considering next steps in California, but the bill does prohibit the NCAA from barring a university from competition if its athletes are compensated for the use of their name, image, or likeness beginning in 2023. Okay, and this allows athletes to sign endorsement deals with major companies. So, first of all, what goes on in the NCAA is very corrupt. I don't know if it's quite NFL level. That's a tough call. But these students, through their athletic activities, through playing sports, bring in tons of revenue. We don't even know where a lot of it goes. It doesn't go back into the schools in most cases. What it does go back into, in a lot of universities, the football coach is pretty much the highest paid position. So, and they're generating the revenue. So, overall, I definitely favor college athletes getting compensated for their efforts. They put their bodies on the line. They run the risk that they're going to get an injury that could prohibit them from playing in the future. They can get a career-ending injury. It happens all the time. Then they don't get to play in the NFL, and they put their bodies on the line, and they don't get a dime for it. So I am for them receiving compensation. Now, the other side of this is, how do we kind of make this an equilibrium here? What about students playing in the school orchestra? That school orchestra probably brings in a ton of money for the school. Where's that money going? Should they get compensated for playing? You see how there's, a lot of, there's complexity here is what I'm saying. And this is coming from someone who has spent time in academia. And overall, I do favor athletes getting compensated for their efforts based on what is going on with the money. Now, I think in a perfect world, I would want all that money to be totally accounted for, and I would like it to actually go back into the school, completely back into the school. And I don't mean back into the school. I mean legit back into the school. Like, I don't know, heaven forbid, we can make tuition cheaper. Although it's going to take more than that. But you get the idea. So, but California's doing that. I think overall this is a good thing. I do think that athletes should be compensated for what they do and what they bring in. And hopefully this is the start of, addressing some of the lack of accountability that goes on in this stuff. There is so much revenue generated from college sports. And when you look at the players not being paid, you got to wonder, where is all this going? Where is all this going? All right. So interesting article, Seawalk. Interesting topic, and we'll see where it all goes. And I'll see what you guys are saying about this in the chat later as well. But here is something that I feel like is totally good news. And before we get to our last story of the day, we're gonna go to the song of the day first. So I got this email. Check this out. I got an email. Dear Ron, my daughter Nefertiti has written a song. It's on YouTube, and it has garnered 240,000 views so far. Universal say there's no talent there. You're a music guy. I watch you and Lucy on Music Monday. I would appreciate your opinion, honestly. Thanks, Ron, if you feel inclined. Love, Carrie. Or this is signed by Carrie. So I checked out Carrie's daughter. Carrie's daughter is an artist that goes by New, N-U. Easy to remember, just 2 letters, New. And that song is called Paradise. I listened to it, Carrie. Great jazz pop song. I really enjoyed it. I could totally hear it in like a coffee shop. I could totally hear it at a lounge. It is new. It is modern. It is hip. It has elements of vocal. It has elements of jazz. It has elements of pop. It's kind of all going on there. I enjoyed it very much. Am I a huge connoisseur of modern day pop music? And when I say pop music, I mean top 40 type stuff. No, I'm not. I don't really... I'm not really cognizant to everything that's going on there. And a lot of times when I hear pop music that I think is very well crafted, which I honestly felt that way about your daughter's song, and I'm being totally honest with you, I really did enjoy it a lot. I don't understand why it's not on the radio. I brought up one of my best friends in the whole world, my friend Anthony, who has a project called The Love Electric. He makes pop music. That's what he does. He's a pop music guy. It's very, very clever pop music. And I hear it and I'm like, why is this not being played on the radio? Why is this not, top 40 stuff? This is just as good as anything I've heard. Granted, I only hear pop music when I'm at a bar or when I'm at my gym, or you get the idea. But I thought this was great. Check it out. That's a song of the day. New NU. The track is called Paradise. I thought it was a really cool, a really smart pop tune. Carrie, tell your daughter I think she's great. But unfortunately, I don't have the pull Universal does. Nowhere close, actually. But tell her that I enjoyed it. You can tell her, hey, I got your Ron Placone bump. And your daughter's going to be like, who the hell is Ron Placone? And that'll be a bonding moment for you, I hope. Maybe. I don't know. But I really enjoyed it. Song of the day submitted by Carrie, and it's Carrie's daughter, New NU, Paradise. And the song's gaining some steam. It's at about 250,000 views right now, last time I checked. Check it out. Add to those views. It's a great pop song, deserving of your attention. All right. So this is happening. Long Beach shares this, which Long Beach, thank you for sharing this. It's nice to end the day on a little bit of good news. And this is breaking news. This is happening today. The first cannabis cafe in the U.S. is open for business in West Hollywood. Check this out. Miley Cyrus-backed Cannabis Cafe brings Amsterdam to Hollywood. There you go, Hollywood. Trying to homogenize other cultures in the world. That's not what's going on here, but, just poking fun at the headline. All right, so the first U.S. restaurant where guests can consume cannabis opens. THC products are apparently strongly linked to vaping lung injuries. CDC is looking into that. But America's first lounge to allow consuming cannabis opens on Monday. That's today in West Hollywood. It's called the Lowell Cafe, and it brings a bit of Amsterdam to the U.S. with a fancy name, the Lowell Cafe. For the first time in the country, customers will legally be able to order pot as if it were a bottle of wine. And that, in fact, is the upscale analog its owners are aiming for. The pot can be smoked in pre-rolled joints or vaped, even as there is some conjecture out there. They're looking into the safety or lack thereof of vaping. The cafe's opening also offers an extension to the cannabis market, where sales are largely confined to dispensaries and online orders, and test the appetite for more open and public consumption of a product that's still illegal in many jurisdictions. So there you go. You can get pot at a restaurant now. We'll take some pot. And because we're ordering some pot, we'll keep one of the menus. We might need it. So that's the Lowell Cafe opening in West Hollywood today. Kind of neat news. Is it neat enough that I'm going to go seek it out? No. I'll probably get there eventually. I'm not going to make the trip for the opening day. If you're in the Los Angeles area, are you going to make the trip for opening day? Are you feeling it? Are you stoked? Let me know. All right. So I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about today. We are going to end a little bit early because I have an appointment. But in the meantime, let me see what you guys are saying. Let me see what the chat has to say. By the way, shout out to our sponsor, ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules. And I still don't know why the stream was just going when I started today. That was weird. That was very weird. Let's see here. Ruth Benedict, thank you very much for your super chat contribution. I'm finished with Tulsi, says Ruth. Medicare for all and unwavering support of this policy is one of two paramount progressive policies. It is second only to the climate crisis. Totally understand that. Totally understand where you're coming from. I don't really like her framing either, nor do I think it's necessary to really highlight the private option. I am willing to wait to see the details of what she's proposing, but I think that, unless there's something that really comes to the surface that we're all missing, I like Bernie's approach to Medicare for all. I think that's the way to go. I think the bill is what we need for our healthcare crisis. We need Medicare for all. So, if people want to get supplemental stuff, that's fine. If people want to get more extensive stuff, that's fine. That doesn't conflate Medicare for all. But I do like the ban on duplicative coverage. But again, I don't think Tulsi's the big roadblock to Medicare for all. She isn't. She just isn't. And she says she supports it. And, but there's some fine details that she, I guess, wants to work out as regards to what a private option actually means. But that is different than what Pete Buttigieg and what Joe Biden and what Kamala Harris are calling for. They're just calling for a public option, which is much different. That means you're not in the Medicare poll if you choose not to be. And that wouldn't work. And that's what they're calling for. That's not what Tulsi's calling for, at least based on everything she's said and everything that we have available to us right now. That's not what Tulsi's calling for. But, I can totally see if you kind of just like Bernie's overall approach better too, because that's how I feel. I kind of like where Bernie's going with it, that we need Medicare for all, full stop, Medicare for all, and let the market dictate. If the private market wants to have more extensive stuff, supplemental stuff, let them dictate that. We don't need to play a role in that. We being, the bill, the policy, we're just going to be Medicare for all and get everybody in the poll. And the other details can work themselves out. We're not going to focus on, some private option and what that is or isn't. So I get it. All right. Let's see. What else are y'all saying? What up, Progressive Conscious? Good to see you. Daniel, great show. Ron, happy Monday. Happy Mondays. Great band. Happy Monday. Great band. All right, guys. Let me plug some tour dates because Graham Elwood and I are coming to Australia. We're going to be there in November. Get your tickets now. Don't wait. Australia, we're coming. November 14th, Melbourne. November 15th, Adelaide. November 17th, Sydney. November 22nd, Perth. Yeah, get your tickets now. Do not wait. Also, Southern California, December 13th, Ventura Harbor Comedy Club. December 14th, the Sycamore Tavern, Dojo of Comedy. We're going to be previewing, Graham Elwood and I are going to be previewing our long sets because we're going to be touring a lot in 2020. That's going to be happening in 2020. So get your tickets now. And by the way, some of the 2020 dates have already been announced. Tucson, tickets are available now, February 8th. March 12th, we're going to be in Orlando, Florida. Tickets are available for that now. April 24th, Seattle, Washington. Tickets available now. And April 25th, Portland, Oregon. Tickets are available now. Oh, and April 10th, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Tickets just went on sale for that one. More to come. Guys, thank you so much for being part of this. I have no idea. The stream was just going when I showed up today. Like I just sat down and the stream was on. I have no idea what was going on there. That was really weird. We're gonna figure that out. But guys, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for being part of this. This has been Get Your News On With Ron. Lucy's right here. How you doing, Lucy? She's purring. I don't know if you can hear it. You can kind of see her ear there a little bit. But she's on my lap. I don't want to disturb her. Hey, look at this, CNN. It's cats bonding. By the way, I had to publicly call out Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report. He was silent on Catgate. And a lot of other cat-loving content creators were as well. But, Mike and I have had extensive conversations on cats. His silence on Catgate was a bit bothersome, but I addressed it and we handled it as colleagues. And he was like, "You're right, Ron." He has since endorsed Catgate, is promoting a more feline-friendly media, which is good. And that inspired Jeff Waldorf of TYT Nation to do the same. And Nico House is also a big cat lover. So I got to get Nico on board. I think Nico has been silent on Catgate. So this needs to be addressed. Nico needs to address Catgate. This is not have a media being hard on. Somebody said this to me, and I'll leave you guys with this, because we covered the cat story on CNN where they had this insanely condescending headline where they're like, "Hey, did you know that humans and cats bonds?" No shit. Like, there's a cat on my lap right now purring. Somebody tweeted this to me. And I feel bad because the person's name is escaping me off the top of my head. But they broke down everything that cats are actually doing. And it all makes sense. Like, when I thought about it, I read through all of it, and I'm like, that actually makes sense. Everything this person said. And I know, like, cats are very they're very distinguished from one another, and cats have varying personalities. But there's certain things that they all do. And a lot of times when somebody generalizes a cat's behavior and they're like, "Well, most cats don't give a shit about their owners and blah, blah, blah," that person doesn't have a cat, nor have they ever. When people say stuff like that, most of the time they've never owned a cat, or rather been owned by a cat, which is the case here, right, Lucy? Who really saves whom? But anyway, this person tweeted at me and they said, they're like, look, cats, a lot of times when they if they put their face in your food, which Lucy does all the time, they're not trying to eat it. They're checking it for you. They think they're checking the safety of your food. And Lucy does that all the time. She'll inspect my food. And for years, I'm just like, Lucy, how do you not know by now that you don't like pasta? You'll sniff it. You have no interest in eating it. You just kind of put your face in it. I never realized, but apparently that's something cats do. They're checking it for you. It's an affection thing when they do that. Also, Lucy, when she gets tired of a toy, knocks it underneath the refrigerator or underneath some area where it will never be seen again. She does that all the time. She does that with different stuff. This person that tweeted this at me, apparently that's their way of cleaning. To them, that actually means they're cleaning. To her, knocking something under the fridge or somewhere where it's just out of sight and she can't get to it with her paws, that's the equivalent of the garbage can. And that makes sense. I mean, I never thought about it that way, but the way this person framed thing after thing after thing, at night they stand guard. She does that all the time. She sleeps on the bed with me, but she'll totally get up and she'll kind of make rounds. That's them standing guard for you. And a lot of times when they inspect a stranger, they inspect the stranger for you, which is something a dog does too. Cats also do that. They're just typically not as big as dogs. They're typically not as maybe aggressive as dogs. And when I say aggressive, I don't necessarily mean aggressive in the negative way. A lot of dogs are very, are very peaceful creatures. I love dogs, don't get me wrong. But, they're more, they'll sniff you. They're a little more kind of forceful with it, whereas cats are a little more subtle. But a lot of cats will do the same thing a dog does when a stranger enters your home. She's one of them. She will always inspect a stranger. And she'll get in between me and that stranger. I thought it was just because she wanted to socialize, which that might be part of it. But also there's other things no, that's their way of checking the person for you. The point is you're awesome, Lucy. So anyway, I had a lot of fun doing that article and it was really cool. Hearing what other cat lovers had to say about it. And I appreciate your insights on that one. Thank you very much. And to the Humanist Report and TYT Nation, thank you for your endorsement of Catgate. And I'm sure Nico House, once it comes on his peripheral, will come in support of Catgate as well. So I look forward to that. We need to stand in solidarity with our feline allies. Thank you guys for being part of this. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. We'll be back tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, right here on YouTube. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. Again, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. See you tomorrow. And until then, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.